Welcome to another Sadler Stories. This time I've got some props for you, and these are some objects of clothing that are particularly meaningful for me, and I think you'll see why as I tell the story. So it really has to begin with Christmas, and this would have been 1999 as we were, crossing into the 2000s, and I was down in Carbondale studying philosophy as a graduate student, living in a trailer park. I was now at that point, I'd gotten my master's. I was working on my PhD, and they had trusted me with my own classes, and I was now teaching and working on the dissertation and getting ready for prelims, all these different sorts of things that were going on. And I was, at that time living in Carbondale, which is in southern Illinois, and my mother had moved recently from one, let's call it a suburb of Milwaukee, Menominee Falls, to Brookfield. She'd bought a new house there, sold the old house, and it was, it was pretty new. I think we'd only been there once before, maybe like for Thanksgiving. And, so it was in a new neighborhood, very different kind of place. And she was hosting holiday parties and very proud of it. And she, I took the train up there or the Greyhound. I don't even remember which I took to get up there, and brought along my stuff with me. And she asked me if there was anything that I needed, and I remember this conversation that we had in class. One of my professors, who was also like first generation college and all that sort of stuff, he was giving us advice, and he said, you really need a black suit. Black suits are really good. You can use them for everything except for a wedding. You got a job interview, wear your black suit. Nobody's going to complain about that. You got a funeral to go to, you got a black suit right there. It's good for just about every occasion. If you're only going to have one suit, get a black one. And I was like, yeah, I started telling her about this professor's idea, and she said, well, let's go out shopping. And, my mother was somebody who really did enjoy shopping, and I didn't always like that myself, but, I'd gotten, let's say, accustomed to it. And she was like, we're going to go and get you a black suit because you need a black suit. So first we went to this place, and I don't even know if it's open anymore. It was in a strip mall. And she said, I really like to go here and get, this is where I go for my fancy clothes. And she knew the guy. It was an older guy who was, sort of the suit seller, I suppose you call him, or there's probably a name for that. He probably did some of the tailoring as well and took measurements. And she was like, my son needs a good suit. He's starting to teach. And so, they're talking back and forth. And my mom was really a good talker. I mean, if you think that I'm a talker, you should have heard her. She really lived for that sort of thing. And so he was a good salesperson, and she was in, kind of a Christmas generous mood. And she's like, I'm going to get you these things as your presents. You really need to have good clothes for the job that you're moving into. It's fine that you've been kind of dressing down for the last couple of years, but now you need to get your act in gear. And I do actually still have two of the things that she got me at that first store. We didn't get a black suit. Instead, the guy was like, well, you can't go wrong with a navy suit either. And so all I have left of that is the jacket, because I long since outgrew the pants. But the jacket is actually still pretty decent, and I wear it every once in a while. You'll see this in some of my videos. This is, 20 years old at this point and still doing quite well for me. I can't match pants exactly to the color because apparently they change the dyes every year, but I really do, and I really do like this jacket. It's something that I keep, not only because it's attractive and fits well and wears well, but also because it's a way of remembering the generosity of my mom and that particular evening. And I should tell you a little bit about that before I go on. So, I was home for Christmas. There was snow on the ground. It was a snowy evening. Everything was kind of quiet. And, we got in the car, we drove, I think we had dinner or something, we drove out to these places, and she's like, they'll still be open, don't worry about it. And, I tried the suit on and it fit, and she's like, well, this is pretty good. This will be useful for you as you're teaching. And I don't know how many classes I've taught or job interviews I've gone to or things like that wearing this suit. And then she saw something else and she's like, oh, wow, you've got to have that. Let's see if it'll actually fit you. Try it on. And it was a little bit, I'm more into like neutral colors and stuff like that. This is a little bit more showy. And you may have seen this in a few videos. This is a suede jacket. And it's, it's a tan color. It feels very nice. And she said, try it on, put it on. And the guy, of course, is, trying to sell it. And I really liked it. And I wore this a lot, too. You got to be a little bit careful with it, of course, if it's going to rain or snow, because it is suede. But this is quite a nice gift to have on her part. So I had those two things. And, they wrapped them up and, had them hanging in the suit thing and all that. And I ended up taking them down to Carbondale with me in my dad's old leather, whatever you call that thing that you put, suits and sports coats and stuff like that into. It's a big bag that you can like hang. So then after that, we went to Men's Warehouse, and she's like, listen, we really need to get you a black suit. And I was like, okay, I mean, this is a lot, but if you want to do that, that's really cool. I can definitely use it. So we went to Men's Warehouse, and, we were, shopping around and looking, and we found a really nice black suit. And it didn't fit me perfectly. So, they do the measurements and all that, and they're like, well, we'll tailor it, and, it'll be a while because it's the Christmas season, probably about 2 weeks before it's ready. And I was like, well, I'll be back down in Carbondale by then. And my mom was like, I can send it to you. Not a big deal. And I also got this tie at that time because, black tie goes with a black suit, and you can't go wrong with that. This is not a long tie, which is what I actually need. But, I managed to make it work, and it's been part of my wardrobe for a very long time. I've worn this to quite a few occasions, and that's where the story gets more interesting and, in some respects, deeper and more, what would you call it? More profound. That's just a synonym for deeper, but there's something to this. So I go home, and home for me is Carbondale, Illinois at that time. I go down there and, get to teaching and all that. The semester begins, and I kind of forget about the black suit. I'm not really thinking about it because I've got that, and I've also got sweaters, and, I've got enough so I can get through my class that I'm teaching 2 or 3 times a week and look fairly decent. And then something happens. I get a call at my trailer, and it's from the U.S. consulate in Costa Rica, where my mom had been on vacation. And as soon as they told me that, I knew something was wrong. Something bad had happened. And sure enough, she died. And she died on a rafting trip that I'll tell you more about maybe in another video sometime. Long story short, the river was, swollen with waters. It was much more dangerous than it was originally rated as being. The outfit that she was with, they had a number of safety violations. She and another person out of the 6 people died, and another one broke his arm. And, the Red Cross had to go in, carry out the corpses through the jungle on their back, and then, they find out stuff from the consulate. Of course, they had to be cremated there because you're not going to ship a body, from one country to another. Embalming isn't all the same there. And so, she would come back in an urn with her really screw-up boyfriend, who I didn't like at the time and haven't thought about for years, but he was kind of a schmuck. And, I get the call, and the consulate is like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, what do you mean, what do I want to do? What do you do in these situations? And the consul was like, well, we can send the ashes back home. Somebody's got to take them, and we'll send you a death certificate, and we'll, get the ball rolling. You're going to have a lot of stuff to do. And I said, oh, okay. And so my girlfriend at the time, we drove all the way up from Carbondale to Brookfield, Wisconsin, and, found the spare key, settled in, and, the whole idea was kind of hitting me. And at that time, the only other person who was going to be helping out, because, my dad died years and years and years back, so it was my mom and then her live-in boyfriend, PR guy, and, I had a sister who was at that time, I think, like 6-7 months pregnant, not really in the best state of mind. Grief will do things to people. The news had hit me, and now I'm thinking, holy crap, what do I need to do? I mean, I've got to call people and figure out how to arrange for the funeral, and there's probably a whole bunch of financial stuff I've got to look at, and I don't even know where her papers are. And so, I'm going around the house, finding this and that. It took a long time to disentangle all the financial stuff eventually. But here's where it comes back to the clothing. We knew we had to have a funeral, and I needed that black suit. And when I went into her study room, her den, where she had her desk and file cabinets and all that, it was a bedroom that had been converted into an office. There it was, the black suit from Men's Warehouse, tailored to my specifications, hanging there in the closet. She had gone and picked it up before she went on her trip down to Costa Rica. And fortunately she had, because I was thinking to myself, oh crap, I'm gonna need that black suit for this funeral. How ironic that she bought that very suit for me. We were kind of joking around, oh, it's great for funerals, not knowing it would be used for her funeral as the first time that I wore it. And there it was. She had, without thinking about this in those ways, provided for me in a time when I was going to try to do justice to, her will and wishes, and honor her memory, and also, fend off her jerk boyfriend trying to get equity in the house and stuff like that, and manage, all this stuff that has to happen with conferring with the priest and, my family and all, having my sister there with her kind of screw up fiance at the time. And so, having that suit there and having this tie there along with it, ready to at least get through one thing, it really meant something. And I don't know exactly what it means, but it was an interesting turn of fate that all that generosity, all that sort of looking out for you in that terrible time in the middle of winter, as I was, sort of transitioning from being a college student and grad student into being something other than that, growing up a bit, that the suit was there for me. I don't have it anymore. I, sort of wore it out, and I think we donated it at one point to someone. So maybe somebody else is getting some good benefit out of it at this point. But I thought that was, something that, as I was picking out my tie for a video that I did earlier today, I was looking at it and remembering wearing this tie in the receiving line at the funeral and when I gave the eulogy and all those sorts of things, and that she had gifted it to me just, a month and a half, if even that, earlier in the previous year. So that's the story about the tie and these sports jackets and the black suit.